You know, every time I walk onto a stage like this, I'm reminded of one simple truth. Your life is not defined by what has happened to you. It's defined by what you decide to do next. And today, I want to talk to you about something bold, something a little crazy, and something absolutely possible, changing your life in just 3 days. Not 3 years, not 3 months, 3 days. Because when your mindset shifts, your entire world shifts with it. I've lived multiple lives. An actress, a producer, an entrepreneur, a student of life. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that transformation doesn't wait for perfect timing. It happens in moments of courage, moments when you dare to challenge the narrative you've been repeating to yourself for far too long. Some of the biggest decisions I've ever made came from a single spark, followed by action. So today, I want you to give yourself permission to ignite that spark. Not tomorrow, not someday. You're here right now, breathing, dreaming, wanting more. And in the next 3 days, with the right mindset, clarity, discipline, and unstoppable belief, you can rewrite the direction of your life. I'm not here to motivate you for a moment. I'm here to help you awaken the power you've been carrying all along. Your mindset is the engine of all transformation. And once you understand the depth of that truth, everything in your life starts to look different. Most people think change begins with action. But real change starts much earlier, long before you take a step, long before you say a word, long before anyone sees any progress. It starts in the quiet space inside your mind, where your beliefs, fears, hopes, and self-talk are constantly shaping the direction of your life. Your mindset is the lens through which you interpret everything, challenges, opportunities, failures, and even your own potential. If that lens is fogged with doubt or fear or assumptions about who you think you are, then every decision that follows will reflect that limitation. But when your mindset is aligned with clarity, resilience, and belief, your actions naturally rise to match that higher standard. Most people underestimate the power of their mindset because it feels intangible. You can't hold it, you can't see it, you can't show it off. And yet, it silently controls everything. Think about the times you talked yourself out of something before you even tried. Think about the dreams you pushed aside because you convinced yourself you weren't ready or capable or deserving. That wasn't reality stopping you, that was mindset. And the moment you realize that your biggest obstacles often live in your own thoughts, you suddenly gain control you never knew you had. Because you can't always control your environment or the circumstances that appear in your life. But you can always control how you think about them. And that one shift alone can turn setbacks into setups and pressure into power. Your mindset is also the foundation of your daily habits. Every brave choice, every disciplined action, every moment of consistency begins with a thought that says, I can do this, or I must do this, or this matters to me. When your mindset supports your growth, you stop negotiating with your excuses. You stop waiting for motivation to magically appear. You stop depending on perfect conditions. Instead, you start creating momentum from within. The energy that pushes you forward doesn't come from the outside world. It comes from the inner belief that what you're building is possible, important, and worth your effort. That belief becomes your internal engine. And once it's running, it becomes very difficult for anything to stop you. The most successful people in the world aren't the ones who never face failure, fear, or uncertainty. They're the ones who meet those moments with a mindset that refuses to be defeated. They look at difficulty and think this is temporary. They look at criticism and think this is data, not identity. They look at challenges and think this is where I grow. When you adopt that same mindset, the world doesn't suddenly become easier, but you become stronger, faster, clearer, and more strategic. You stop reacting emotionally to every setback and start responding consciously. You stop seeing growth as something to achieve and start seeing it as something to embody. The truth is, your mindset is always working either for you or against you. Every day, it's shaping the stories you tell yourself, who you think you are, what you believe is possible, how much you think you deserve, and how far you're willing to go. Those stories become your decisions. Your decisions become your habits. Your habits become your identity. And your identity becomes your life. So when you change the engine, you change the entire direction of the journey. Small daily decisions create massive life shifts, even though they rarely feel powerful in the moment. Most people wait for some dramatic turning point, an opportunity, a breakthrough, a sign from the universe, believing that change must arrive with fireworks and fanfare. But real transformation is built quietly, through tiny choices that seem insignificant at first glance. The decision to wake up a little earlier, the decision to speak kindly to yourself, the decision to learn something new instead of scrolling mindlessly, the decision to take one step forward on a day when your motivation is low. These moments may look small, but they are not. They are the building blocks of a completely different life, and they accumulate faster than you realize when you commit to them consistently. Every big achievement you admire in someone else is actually a collection of countless small decisions they made long before anyone noticed. Success is never an explosion, it's a slow burn. It's the result of choosing discipline when distraction seems easier, choosing growth when comfort is tempting, choosing progress when excuses are calling your name. And the powerful thing about small decisions is that they bypass the resistance your mind often creates. Telling yourself you need to change your entire life at once is overwhelming. But choosing one meaningful action each day is achievable. It is doable. It sustainable. And once your brain gets used to that rhythm, it begins to expect progress. And that expectation shifts your entire identity. The beauty of small daily decisions is that they don't require massive time, money, or resources. They require intention. They require awareness of your patterns and a willingness to replace old habits with better ones, one step at a time. Overthinking and procrastination lose their power when you shift your focus from how do I transform everything to what is one thing I can do today that moves me forward. That question alone can rewire your future because it directs your attention toward action instead of avoidance. And every action, no matter how small, strengthens the part of you that believes change is possible. These decisions also compound over time. One day of discipline feels good. 7 days begins to change your routine. 30 days start changing how you see yourself. 90 days begin changing how others see you. You become someone who shows up, someone who follows through, someone who does rely on motivation to push forward. This compounding effect is the real magic behind transformation. The world often sees the final result and calls it overnight success. But you and I know that success is never overnight. It's the outcome of showing up every single day, especially on the days when nothing seems to be changing on the surface. The truth is, your life is always responding to your decisions, whether you make them consciously or unconsciously. If you make no decisions, you drift. If you make negative decisions, you decline. But when you make intentional daily choices, no matter how small you rise, you move closer to the person you want to become. Small decisions shape your discipline, your identity, your mindset, and ultimately your destiny. They train your brain to value progress over perfection, action over hesitation, and purpose over comfort. And the consistency of these choices creates a quiet but unstoppable momentum that can transform your life more quickly and more powerfully than any grand gesture ever could. Courage begins where comfort ends. And that single truth reshapes the way you approach every challenge, opportunity, and moment of uncertainty in your life. Most people wait to feel brave before they act. But courage doesn't appear in the absence of fear, it appears right beside it. It shows up when your hands shake, when your voice trembles, when you don't have all the answers, and yet you move anyway. The comfort zone may feel safe, predictable, and familiar, but it also keeps you small. It keeps you repeating the same patterns, living the same days, accepting the same limits. Courage is what breaks that loop. It is the internal push that tells you there is more out there for you and that you are capable of stepping into it even if the path isn't clear yet. Every major shift in your life will require you to walk through a door you've never opened before. That door might be labeled risk, uncertainty, change, or challenge, but behind it is the version of you that you've been trying to grow into. And the only currency that unlocks it is courage. It doesn't matter if the step you take is small or huge. What matters is that it moves you beyond the boundary your comfort zone has drawn around you. Most people stay stuck not because they lack potential, but because they fear the discomfort that growth demands. They want new results but cling to old habits. They want transformation but resist anything unfamiliar. Courage is what disrupts that pattern, because the moment you choose discomfort in the service of your future, You declare that your dreams matter more than your fears. Courage is not a personality trait, it is a practice. It grows every time you face something difficult and refuse to run from it. It strengthens when you have uncomfortable conversations, when you try something new, when you pursue an opportunity that intimidates you, when you stand up for yourself, when you risk failure in the name of progress. And the beautiful thing is, you don't have to feel courageous to act courageously. You just have to be willing to move despite the doubt. With each step you take, your confidence expands, and your comfort zone stretches a little farther. What once felt terrifying eventually becomes familiar. And what once felt impossible becomes your new normal. That's the real power of choosing courage. Your life expands in direct proportion to the challenges you're willing to face. Courage also changes the way you see yourself. Every time you do something you feared, you rewrite your own internal narrative. You prove to yourself that you are capable of more than you believed. You strengthen the part of your identity that sees yourself as powerful, resourceful, and resilient. That shift is life-changing because your identity determines your actions. When you believe you are someone who can handle discomfort, you start taking bigger risks. When you believe you can survive failure, you stop avoiding opportunities. When you believe you can adapt, you stop staying stuck. Courage creates a new mental foundation, one built on trust in yourself rather than fear of the unknown. And the truth is, courage is contagious within your own life. The moment you say yes to one brave decision, you make it easier to say yes to the next one. You begin stepping into rooms you once avoided, accepting challenges you once denied, pursuing goals you once postponed. Bit by bit, you create a life shaped not by fear, but by intention and possibility. When comfort stops being your priority, growth becomes your default, and that shift opens doors you didn't even know existed. What you focus on expands rapidly, and this is one of the most powerful truths you can use to reshape your life. Your attention is like a spotlight. Wherever you direct it, that area grows brighter, stronger, and more dominant in your reality. Yet most people spend their days focusing on what they fear, what they lack, what frustrates them, or what might go wrong. They feed their doubts with constant attention and then wonder why those doubts feel so overwhelming. They replay mistakes, magnify problems, and reinforce limitations without even realizing they're doing it. Your mind is always listening to where you place your focus, and it responds by building more of whatever you repeatedly think about. When you understand this, you begin to see how much control you truly have over the direction of your life. Focus is not just about thoughts, it is about energy. It shapes your emotions, influences your decisions, and colors the way you interpret the world around you. When you focus on what's working, you feel empowered. When you focus on what's missing, you feel defeated. Your emotional state follows the path carved by your attention. If you focus on opportunities, you begin to notice possibilities that were always there but previously invisible. If you focus on obstacles, every path seems blocked. This doesn't mean ignoring reality or pretending everything is perfect. It means choosing to place your mental strength where it creates growth instead of where it drains you. The difference between people who rise and people who remain stuck often comes down to what they consistently choose to magnify in their minds. Your focus also trains your brain to filter the world a certain way. The human mind has a natural mechanism called the reticular activating system, which acts like a gatekeeper for the information you notice. When you set a focus, whether consciously or unconsciously, your brain begins scanning the environment to find evidence that aligns with that focus. If your focus is, I'm not enough, your brain will collect proof that reinforces it. If your focus is, I'm growing and improving, your brain will find signals that support that belief. This is why shifting your focus can feel like shifting your entire reality. You're not forcing positivity, you're instructing your brain to pay attention to what moves you forward instead of what keeps you stuck. The expansion effect created by focus influences your daily habits as well. When you repeatedly think about a goal, you naturally begin making choices that align with it. When you focus on your health, you start noticing healthier options. When you focus on discipline, you become aware of patterns that waste your time. When you focus on self-worth, you stop tolerating what drains or diminishes you. The consistency of your focus becomes the foundation of your behavior. And once your behavior changes, your results follow. People often say, Nothing in my life is changing. But when you look closely, their focus hasn't changed either. They're still thinking the same thoughts, feeding the same stories, and directing their energy toward the same fears or distractions. To change your life, you must first change what you feed your attention. And then there's the emotional momentum that comes from focused energy. The more you focus on empowerment, the more empowered you feel. The more you focus on progress, the more progress you make. The more you focus on gratitude, the more abundance you begin to notice. This momentum is subtle at first, like a whisper, but it grows with every choice you make. One day, you realize that you no longer wake up thinking about problems. You wake up thinking about possibilities. You no longer spend your day reacting. You spend it creating. You no longer see life as something happening to you. You see it as something you are shaping with intention. That shift begins in your focus. And from there, it expands into the life you once only imagined. 3 days of discipline. Action can break lifelong patterns. And most people don't realize how quickly a single decision, repeated with intention, can rewire the mind and reshape the direction of their lives. We often believe that change requires years of work or perfect condition or some grand revelation that suddenly transforms everything. But what truly creates transformation is not time, it's intensity, clarity, consistency, and commitment. When you decide to give yourself 3 focused days, days where you stop negotiating with your excuses and start showing up with full presence, you interrupt the habits that have been running your life on autopilot. You create a shock to the system, a break in the old rhythm, and that break becomes the opening for a new version of you to step forward. Patterns don't stay alive because they are powerful. They stay alive because they are repeated. Every time you follow the same routine, respond with the same reaction, or think the same thoughts, you strengthen those pathways in your brain. But the moment you disrupt that pattern, even briefly, your brain becomes receptive to change. 3 days of consistent discipline sends a message: things are different now. This is why short, intense bursts of focused action are so effective, not because they complete the entire journey, but because they initiate it. They create the spark, the momentum, the psychological shift that says, this is who I'm becoming. In those 3 days, you prove to yourself that you're capable of breaking cycles that have held you back for years. The beauty of a concentrated 3-day reset is that it's both manageable and transformative. It's long enough to create a meaningful shift, but short enough that your mind can't talk you out of it. When you commit to 3 days of discipline, whether it's waking up earlier, eating clean, eliminating distraction, exercising, studying, planning, or pursuing a long-avoided project, you build evidence of your own capacity. You begin to see that progress doesn't come from thinking about change, but from choosing change repeatedly, even when it feels unfamiliar. Each time you show up in those 3 days, you weaken the voice of procrastination and strengthen the voice of self-leadership. And something powerful happens when you experience even a small taste of the identity you've been trying to grow into. Discipline creates clarity. Clarity creates momentum. Momentum creates belief. And belief creates transformation. In 3 days, you can go from feeling stuck to feeling capable, from feeling overwhelmed to feeling focused, from feeling lost to feeling aligned. It's not that your whole life becomes perfect. It's that you reconnect with the version of you who is capable of building the life you want. You realize that you don't need to wait for motivation, inspiration, or the perfect moment. You need action, repeated with intention. These 3 days also reveal what has been holding you back. When you commit to discipline, you become aware of your habits, your triggers, your distractions, and your emotional patterns. You see where you've been giving away your time, your energy, and your attention. And once you see it, you can no longer pretend you don't. Awareness creates responsibility. Responsibility creates power. The discipline of these 3 days teaches you that you are not controlled by your environment, your excuses, or your past. You are controlled by the decisions you choose to make in the present. And once you break the pattern, even for a short burst, you create a new point of reference for your mind. You teach yourself what it feels like to be consistent. You teach yourself what it feels like to follow through. You teach yourself what it feels like to choose growth over comfort. That memory becomes your anchor, your proof, your reminder that change is not a distant dream. It's something you can activate whenever you decide. 3 days may seem small, but when approached with discipline and purpose, they have the power to alter the direction of your life in ways you never expected.